The first time I asked about the lake house, I was 8, sitting on the edge of my aunt's couch while the adults clustered around the coffee table with their wine and their soft, bright voices. "The mornings," my uncle said. He smiled in a way that didn't seem meant for anyone in the room. "You open the windows and it's like the whole world is rinsed clean," he said. "The water is so clear you can see your toes," my mother added. She said it like she was giving me something. I remember nodding. Something in me tightened with a want. A world that could be rinsed clean sounded like a miracle. "You'll go someday," my aunt said, patting my knee. "When it's easier." Easier was a word my family loved. Easier meant the thing I wanted could just be moved out of reach and no one had to admit they were doing it on purpose. As I got older, there were invitations, a text from my cousin about a long weekend, a photo of a dock strung with white lights, an email with dates and a subject line that said "Lake!" in all caps, like enthusiasm could substitute for closeness. Each time, of course, there was a reason I couldn't go that sounded legitimate when I said it aloud. A deadline, a conference, a move, a relationship that needed tending. Each time I declined, I imagined my family on that dock, laughing softly with their faces turned toward the water, and I felt something feral and humiliating inside me. Then there was the issue, the one that no one named. It wasn't a blow-up. It was a long misalignment. I said one true thing too clearly in a room where everyone had been surviving on polite fictions. After that, the invitation stopped. Not abruptly, just quietly. The lake house didn't stop. It lived in holidays, in the way my aunt said, "At the lake we always..." and laughed like she'd said something indulgent. It lived in my cousin's photos, sunlit coffee mugs, paperback novels on tanned knees, a blurry mid-dive shot captioned "Reset." I built my own version of it from those fragments. The lake house became less of a place than a boundary. If I couldn't cross it, maybe I could cross back into the family story. Maybe I could finally set down the weight I carried whenever their name lit up my phone. When my sabbatical began, real time, suddenly unassigned, I didn't know what to do with the quiet. I slept badly. I woke with panic. I needed somewhere that wasn't mine, a place with rituals that existed before me. So I called my mother. We did the careful pleasantries. Then I said it. "Can I go up to the lake house?" There was a pause, long enough for heat to crawl up my neck. In it, I heard everything said about me in rooms I wasn't in. Then my mother exhaled. You want to go now?" "I have the time," I said. "I just want to stay for a week, alone, to unwind." Unwind. A borrowed word. "Okay," she said too quickly, like a decision made for convenience. She texted directions, a gate code, a warning about temperamental water pressure. She didn't say she was glad. She didn't say we'd talk. She just said, "Lock up when you're done." The drive north was supposed to be pleasant. That was part of the myth. The last stretch, the thinning stations, the radio dissolving into static. I left before dawn. The farther I drove, the more the world narrowed. Suburbs to farmland, to trees pressing in close. My phone's signal flickered, returned, vanished again. The GPS hesitated at turns, recalculating with a faint lag that made my stomach tighten. At one point, I passed a marshy area and caught a whiff through the vents. Stagnant, metallic air. It was brief, gone before I could place it, but it stayed with me. I told myself it was nothing. The address led me to a split in the road marked by a rusted sign with no letters left. No service. No indication of which way meant anything. I drove, then turned around, drove the other way. Roads looped in ways that didn't make sense there. One shore drive was just grass flattened by tires. By the time I reached the gate, my shoulders ached from tension. The gate code worked. The metal screamed open. The gravel lane wound through the thinning trees, and then the house appeared. It was not the house from the stories. The siding sagged. The porch leaned. The windows were dark with grime, one taped over with yellow duct tape. I sat in the car, staring, and felt the first sharp edge of understanding. This wasn't new decay. This had been happening for a long time. The smell reached me when I stepped out. Damp wood, yes, but under it something sour and mineral, like water left too long with metal. This is just old, I said out loud. It's fine. The fake rock was by the steps. The key inside was cold in my hand. Inside, the air was heavy, stale. Furniture dented into permanent shapes. Board games swollen with moisture. Family photo frames stacked and never hung. The windows wouldn't open. The wood around them had fused. Down the hallway were bedrooms with plastic-covered mattresses, like bodies. Fake flowers. A careful, abandoned effort. At the end of the hall was a door I hadn't expected. Solid, newer, deadbolted. The back room. I tried the knob. It was locked. As I leaned closer, the smell sharpened, and then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Not loud, not frantic. Steady. I stepped back and told myself it was pipes. The house was settling. That night, as the light drained from the sky, the footsteps began. Not at first, then faintly. Gravel crunching. Voices murmuring low. They passed the house. I couldn't tell if they were stopping, if they were looking in, what they were doing. More footsteps later. It sounded like laughter, a dog's collar jingling. I turned on every lamp. The windows became mirrors. The footsteps kept coming, irregular but persistent. Nothing threatening, nothing explainable enough to relax into, though. The tapping behind the locked door returned after midnight. Tap, tap, tap. I lay awake, counting it, my heartbeat trying to sink. Morning made everything clearer and worse. The path was obvious in the daylight, a worn strip of ground skirting the property. A man in a safety vest walked it, a woman with a dog, an older couple with walking sticks. No one looked at the house. I found the sign half hidden in brush later. Shoreline easement, public access. Of course, that night's fear rearranged itself into humiliation. The quiet had never been quiet. The privacy had been edited. Inside, the tapping continued. Tap, tap. I searched for a key. There wasn't one. The smell grew stronger near the door, metallic and wet. I grabbed the toolbox, rusted tools. I told myself it was practical. The door resisted. The tapping continued, unchanged, as if it had all the time in the world. When the frame finally gave and the door swung inward, the smell hit like a blow. Inside was not storage. It was dirt and studs and damp air that didn't belong in a living space. A circular opening in the ground, like a cracked pipe. Water surged up into the ring and slapped against the concrete. Tap, tap, tap. It didn't stop when I saw it. It kept going. The sound didn't care that I understood now. A rat burst from behind a bin, panicking, ran past my feet and vanished into the hall. The water surged again. Cold flecks splashed my ankle. The smell was pennies and rot. There were failed patches around the pipe, newer caulk, smeared and useless. They'd known. Outside, behind the house, the ground dipped into a stagnant basin. The smell thickened. Half submerged in the dark water was a wooden rowboat, tipped on its side, algae filmed, small plant growing from its bow. Something meant to carry people out into the lake. Now stuck, waterlogged, abandoned. The water trembled faintly as if shifting underneath. I stood there listening to the insects, to the distant footsteps on the easement, to the steady lapping under the house. Tap, tap, tap. That night, the rats skittered. The footsteps continued. The water never stopped. Explainable, persistent, uninterested in my fear. At dawn, I sat on the porch and typed notes. Dates, smells, the easement, the locked door, the well, the boat. The house creaked behind me. Somewhere beneath it, water lapped against the concrete. Tap, tap. A true sound. And I understood then that the worst thing wasn't that my family had kept me from something beautiful. It was that they had tried to make me jealous of rot. And that for a long time, it had almost worked.